From Mr. Bojangles to the Elimination Chamber, we're going to talk about Javon Evans' week or few days. That and a lot more. This is WrstlXtra. Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. Of course, joined by my tag team partner. Say his name, he shall appear. The man of all knowledge, he is the Professor Gerard Bonner. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Better than last week.
Good. Very good. Very, very good.
My buddy said, I'm not doing it today.
Right.
And in full force today. Let's get straight into this one. This is we'll start with the craziness and then we'll end on the better note. It was obviously, put out there quite a lot over, I believe it was on Sunday. Kevin Nash had some very questionable words on his podcast called The Click. He was talking about Javon Evans in general, saying good things. He was saying good things about Javon, but then kind of threw in there that is a bit too happy-go-lucky, but the words that he used, he said he's too Mr. Bojangles, and he needed to be more urban. Let me ask you this. Gerard. I'm from the UK. The whole Mr. Bojangles thing isn't exactly, something that we know enough about or a lot about or generally know about. Give me a little bit more of an insight into what those words meant and how it was taken on your side of the season.
All right. So a little information about this Mr. Bojangles thing. So there's a couple of things. There was a famous black tap dancer by the name of Bill Bojangles Robinson. But that's not the reference to Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles was actually a character that was portrayed in a song back in 1968. It was by a guy named Jerry Jeff Walker, and it was inspired by a homeless white street performer that he met in a New Orleans jail. This Mr. Bojangles situation is not designed to be a term of endearment. It is very much along the lines of a step and fetch it. It's very much along the lines of you're just too happy, you're just too this, just shut up and dance, basically. And I think this is, first of all, this is why we do this show, to be able to discuss these kinds of issues that wouldn't be discussed in other platforms, because to them, they don't understand why a comment like that would be problematic. The problem historically, and let me just say this, historically speaking, Kevin Nash has been an ally. He's been an ally. He has waved the flag of Black Lives Matter and all of the things, and we appreciate that. I think where this becomes problematic is when you don't understand that people of color are not monolithic, and that one comment that he made that Javon isn't urban enough really struck a chord with me, because I've been told that my whole life, that I'm not urban enough. That I speak too white because my speech is proper. And one of the challenges that I've lived with my entire life is I'm not Black enough to be accepted by my community or by the other community, but I'm not white enough either, So it's this weird juxtaposition that you have to live in that says you have to act a certain way to be deemed a part of a certain community. And the wrestling industry just mirrors what happens in the larger macrocosm of the world that we live in. So it's a concern when you look at somebody like Javon Evans, which quite frankly, we haven't seen a Javon Evans before. We've seen, Kofi certainly do what he does. We've seen Ricochet do what he does. But the long, tall, lanky build of Javon Evans, coupled with his kindness, coupled with he's just happy to be there because he's 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do you expect a 21-year-old to act like? Well, I understand what you expect him to act like. You expect him to act like what people stereotypically think young black men act like. And so what you have a hard time with is this man being happy about being able to travel across the world, being happy about, wow, actually getting a passport and having to use it. That's because you don't understand the story. You don't understand the story of a kid coming out of North Carolina who's just hoping to get a big break, working on the indies. And again, he's a teenager at the time. He gets the break that most people don't get in the space of WWE. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, again, because most people in WWE do more of a ground game or the like, he stands out. And because of his great attitude, his willingness to do whatever is necessary, he's received well. And now he's given great opportunities and he's proven he can handle it. This is why it's problematic. Because the expectation that he's more urban, the expectation that he just punches people, everybody can't be the same. And we as people of color are not all the same. Many of us do a lot of things and have a lot of interests. And you know what? At some point, given the world that we live in, we ought to give space for someone to just be happy. Mm-hmm. And here's my other problem. If you're saying he's just happy, you clearly didn't watch the NXT product when he was going off on both Ricky Saints and Ethan Page. Mm-hmm. You missed that whole thing when he just started beating people up. You missed all of that. So he's got depth. He's got style. He's got the relatability to every person right now who's 21 looking for a big break. And he gets it. And they get to see themselves through him. And if you just look at the response last night, when he wins the qualifying match in the Elimination Chamber, it wasn't just people of color cheering for him. Mm-mm. You know, he relates to a lot of people. So I think this is, again, the danger of allyship. And here's what I mean by the danger of it. When you don't know enough about the culture to actually accurately speak to it. And so that's where you just have to stay in lanes that are safe relative to your allyship, unless you're going to do the work to sit back and go, I'm a true ally. I have studied the culture and I'm going to respond appropriately. Kevin Nash, man, like, you're one of the coolest dudes historically. You know, we love the Wolfpack. You know, we love the Too Sweet. We love all of that. But this is out of bounds, man. And the last thing I'll say before we move into whatever else we're going to move into is wrestling itself is not monolithic. So black people aren't monolithic and wrestling is not monolithic. Just because you don't understand or the acrobatic nature of Javon Evans doesn't appeal to you doesn't mean it doesn't work. Not everything I see appeals to me, but I don't have to speak out about it because it's just not for me. And I think Kevin Nash has got to do a better job with that.
And here's the thing. Here's the issue. You know, you mentioned it about you know, how far the allyship can go. You know, you said it correctly in saying that, you know, there's only so much that people know unless they're doing the work. And I think that's the issue here. We've seen it many times. We've seen even, you know, allies in the past who have probably said something incorrect, or we probably have friends that are white or not, just not black, and they're comfortable with us, but then they'll say something you're like,
right,
because there's something that they don't get. And I know for the most part, as I said, Kevin Nash was saying good things about Javon, and he said what he said, and that's a slip up. But it's at the same time, you still have to be very mindful of what you're saying, know what to say, how to say it, when to say it, all the rest of it. It was a major slip up. But going back to Javon's character and how he is, I don't understand how he's not to use this term, but he's not urban. Because when Javon speaks,
this is why I say there's a lack of understanding of the culture, because he is very much entrenched in the culture. His speech is very much reminiscent of that. I mean, like, so if you're saying that he's just not mad enough, then how mad do you want us to be? Because again, this is a lack of understanding of the culture. We don't get to just show up and be angry black man. That doesn't work. That can't be universally accepted. We know that. The companies know that. So again, it's just like, come on, man. Like, let's just be, let's again be in tune with what you say you want to be an ally for. I mean, that's just bottom line here. And and there's a lack of understanding. If you're gonna say Javon Evans isn't urban enough, like, we don't need to take a measurement of how urban one is or isn't, but he very much, uses language of the culture. He expresses himself in that way. I mean, so what else do you want from the kid? Like, he's got his hair in locks and they're tied up in multiple ways. What else do you want from him? Do you want a gold chain? Do you want, a grill? What else do you want?
And that's what my next question was going to be. Like, what does more urban even mean? You know what I mean? Like, what does it mean?
How dare someone who's not a part of the culture tell somebody who is a part of the culture that you're not urban enough? Get out of here.
That you're not part of the culture?
You're not qualified to say that.
It's crazy because, again, I think to myself, what does more urban even mean? And if we want to kind of use historic, black wrestlers in the past that were considered urban, or whatever we think urban is, we're talking Crime Time?
Like, what?
How was that? That was a parody of. It's crazy. It's crazy that someone even still uses those phrases and whatever else. And I don't understand what the issue is. I get if it's not if there's something about Javon that you don't click with. I didn't want to use that word, but I did. Then, but it's fine that it doesn't have to like every single thing about him. It doesn't have to at all. But I don't see why that needed to be. I just don't see why it needed to be said. And if you're gonna say something, say it properly. Explain yourself properly. Maybe stuff like that. So it's happened. And yeah, everyone's had their thing to say. It just wasn't the greatest thing to say. On a lighter note, on a much better note, last night, of course, we saw Javon in that triple threat match to qualify for the Elimination Chamber. Triple threat match against Dominic Mysterio and Gunther as well. Match was amazing. I did not expect Javon Evans to win that match at all. For me, out of the three, he was the last pick. Gunther straight away. I just thought it was going to be his match. Sure. How did you feel as you saw the match progress? At any point, did you actually feel as though Javon was going to win before he actually did?
I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but I didn't see it. And here's why. Even if you go back to the Last Time Is Now tournament with John Cena, you had Javon Evans against Gunther. So it kind of felt like it was going to be a redo. So again, if you just look at the resume, you look at Gunther, the career killer. I mean, he just retired
Mhm.
AJ Styles. He's
Right.
retired John Cena. He's a former world champion. Like it just made sense, the trajectory. Or Dominic Mysterio, who's walking around with 2 championships, Judgment Day, all the things. I mean, it made sense from the stories that they could tell. Now, here's what I love about this
Mhm.
is in a space like the Elimination Chamber, where you already have big names like Randy Orton,
Mhm.
LA Knight, and Cody Rhodes,
Mhm.
uh, you need an underdog. You need somebody in there who the people will pull for, that just doesn't, have the current resume that says, "Hey, I'm a former world champion and I should be main eventing WrestleMania." The
Mhm.
idea, just the idea that Javon Evans last year was in the main event of Stand and Deliver and is technically 1 match away from
Mhm.
being in a main event match at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship, that alone says
Mhm.
plenty. It
Mhm.
says plenty about his ability. It says plenty about what they think about him. It's a great move, and again, the people love to see an underdog win. So him winning that match last night was brilliant. It was a
Mhm.
wonderful story told, and here's the best part: it feels like he should be in there. Like we didn't see him in there, but him
Mhm.
being in
Mhm.
there makes sense,
Yes, it
and
does.
I have a strong level of appreciation for that.
And he what's also interesting is I've seen quite a bit over the last week or so, especially in terms of these elimination chamber matches, the triple threats that we've been seeing, both on the women's and the men's side. Is a lot of people have been talking about how predictable the matches have been in terms of we know who's going to win, we know who's going to move on to the in go to the elimination chamber. This one
Yeah,
was out of nowhere, uh, and
absolutely.
it's and it's brilliant. I'm scratching my head thinking. I mean, Dominic Mysterio's gonna have Penta breathing down his neck for the Intercontinental Championship,
Hmm.
but then my head is like, so what is Gunther gonna be doing up until WrestleMania? Like
Right.
that in itself is interesting for me. And now you've got Javon Evans who's gonna be in there, and what I would love to be is a fly on the wall or in the mind of Javon Evans right now, because over the last few weeks, especially since his debut on the main roster, there's been so many different opinions and different things that we've seen. Obviously, he's come in and everyone loves him. He's a fan favorite straight away. But
Right.
there was talk a few weeks ago about WWE don't see him as a main event guy, and then we've had this thing with Kevin Nash. Like there's still all these negatives that are coming out for him being as young as he is. I'm sure he's very aware of what's happening on the socials. How do you think that he feels kind of like on top of the world and experiencing going around the world and then this negative stuff as well, that's in the background. How does a 22-year-old man think when with all of that going on?
Yeah, I hope that he has enough people around him to remind him, hey, stay off those socials
Mm,
or don't pay attention to the comments. To me, here's the reality. The reality of it is that he's on his way to a main event match at Elimination Chamber in 2 weeks, and all the folks who are commenting are not.
mm,
So I think you got to recognize at that point that the people are cheering for you. The people who need to be excited about you are excited about you. That's where you just really have to be laser focused on what it is that you're doing. What I'm proud of is that he's not gotten into any spats on the
mm,
socials.
of course.
If we remember, I believe it was Ricochet before he made his jump to AEW, who found himself in a spat or two,
Hmm.
and a few others, and it's like it can be difficult when you're constantly hearing craziness from the socials. But I think he also gets a lot of love as
Hmm.
well. And
Hmm.
so I think here again is just where you stay laser focused on what the goal is here. And right now, regardless of the Hall of Famers who may not get it and other people who are making these reports about WWE, again, I sit back and I say, who is the source for this information? Because if you don't see him as a main event guy, but you put him in a main event match on Monday Night Raw, and then in the Elimination Chamber with 3 other main event guys, what are we saying?
Right.
You know, so it's clear that whoever had that source or is that source is wrong. And so I hope for Javon, he's able to just stay focused on what the task at hand is, which is to make more amazing moments in the Elimination Chamber. And who knows? I mean, he could end up in the final 2. You could shock the world and he wins the thing. Like the way the people would be talking if Javon Evans has a shot at the WWE Championship at WrestleMania, what? That'd be crazy. So I think the possibilities are endless for him. And again, you know, you go back a year or two when NXT was in St. Louis and you had Javon Evans against Randy Orton. He has been groomed for the main event picture for years. So, I mean, I think sometimes people just have to take a look at track records and take a look at history as opposed to taking a look to a random source who clearly can't be right.
And I think as well, the other thing that happens quite a lot, and we've seen it so many times with so many different stars that have come from NXT, is people just expect these new talents to go straight in at the top, or feel as though it doesn't make sense if they don't. And sometimes it's not supposed to be that way. Sometimes it can't be that way. And I get also wanting it to be that way. You want to see that happen. I know that when Carmelo Hayes moved up, I wanted to see something similar to that. And we were, you know, scratching our heads and waiting for a year before he won the title and all this kind of stuff. But sometimes it's not for everyone to go that way. And in the same way we've said so many times about with Trick Williams, for example, when this time last year, we were begging for him to go to the main roster. But like, you know, we were saying on here, I would rather him not do something else, stay there and whatever else, or stay in NXT for another year. Thankfully, he did the TNA thing, which made complete sense, and look where he is now. Sometimes it's not the best route to throw someone in at the top straight away. And I don't want to use the whole thing about him being young. It is a thing that you can, you know, rest on, but he's got time. Everyone has time. Even a Trick Williams still has time. Even an Obafemi still has time. A Carmelo Hayes still has time. So it doesn't have to be you go in and straight away you become a champion within 3 months of you debuting on the main roster. Where Javon Evans is now, for me, I think it's a very safe place in a good way. I don't think it's a safe place in the sense of it's comfortable and, you know, we can sit back and chill. It's safe because he doesn't need to be thrown in the deep end. Because if he goes wrong, it's going to be so bad. We've seen it before with so many different wrestlers, whether black, white, or whatever. So I think where he is brilliant. Imagine if he won that Elimination Chamber and the next thing you know, it's Javon Evans versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. It would be crazier. I think it would be crazier than Kofi Mania. Or on a similar level in some ways.
It's funny you mentioned Kofi Mania because last night when I saw Javon win and I saw how the people exploded, I thought to myself, we could get a Kofi Mania scenario. Now, here's the thing. I'm very much in the space of saying I'm very comfortable with him not winning the WWE Championship this year. I think he's got time. I'm very comfortable with him not necessarily doing it. Because here's what people are forgetting. While we want all the new stars to come in and do this, you still have tried and true names that the second you mention them, the people go up. You know, Randy Orton hadn't been around in months. His music hit, boom, and the people are singing it all over the world. You still
mm,
have Cody, you still have Roman, you still have all of these names
mm.
that are there. Now, some of them are coming toward the tail end of their career, as we saw with
Yep.
John Cena and AJ Styles. You can
Mm-hmm.
probably throw Shinsuke in there, Randy
Mm-hmm.
Orton in there, several others who are getting ready to come to the end. That's why it's so important that these new faces are being introduced into that picture. You
Right.
know, why we're
Right.
getting a Trick in there, why we're
Right.
getting, a Javon in there, why we're seeing the rise of Carmelo Hayes and obviously Obafemi. We're seeing these new names starting to be mentioned in these spaces. So
Mm.
as these other names that are more experienced start transitioning out, we are now used to new names stepping in. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it won't feel super weird. So
Mm.
there's a lot that's being balanced and measured. And I'll say this is also the challenge of not having 17 championships on your roster. That means, because think about it. Guys like Penta,
Mm-hmm.
who came in, and I thought for sure last year Penta was walking out of WrestleMania with the Intercontinental
Right.
Championship.
Right.
He's not
Right.
held gold. Ray Phoenix hasn't
Mm-hmm.
held gold. There
Mm-hmm.
are some significant names who have come into WWE from other spaces that have yet to win gold, and it's been a year. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not just, what are they doing to our black stars? No, it is let's get these new names as part of the WWE culture so that, there's a great reaction when they come out and all of these things. So when we put a championship on them, it makes sense.
Right. Right. And we've seen it countless times. We always the main name that comes up quite often in terms of kind of throwing someone in at the top is a Jey Uso. Obviously,
Mhm.
it took him time for obviously doing the whole tag team thing first, but then
Yeah.
it kind of just felt like as soon as he became popular, he was thrust into that world championship space,
Mhm.
and it didn't quite work once he had the belt.
Mm-mm.
We've seen it so many times where even with an LA Knight, for example, again, people clamoring for him to be a world champion. They've decided probably not yet, and for me, it makes sense with a lot of people. And I'm always about, and I say it time and time again, I'm always about things making sense. So again,
Yes.
going back to the Trick Williams thing, don't throw him in the deep end straight away. Let him cook in NXT for another year. They did the TNA thing, which was perfect. And again, we see how perfectly that has worked for him. And
Yes.
I think Obafemi was a very similar thing as well. So this whole rush and this begging of, well, you can write the story and you just put someone at the top. Let's not do that. Let's make
Let's
it make sense. Let's make
Yeah.
it make sense. Let them climb. Let them do what they, let them show that they deserve it. They've earned it. All that kind of stuff. And I don't think we're in that space. I don't think we're in that space of, I think there was a time when Bobby Lashley, for example, when he came back to WWE and he was doing that crazy stuff with Rusev and Lana and all that madness, and then the other stuff with Leo Rush when he was bending over and all that madness. I don't think we're in that space where people have to kind of prove themselves in that silly way, or in that Vince McMahon era where people are doing crazy stuff to prove themselves and then get a chance. I think the proving ground now is more to do with work rate. Kind of showing all of those kinds of things, and then you get your chance. Not just, oh, this is the popular guy, let's just give him a championship and let's go. So it is
Yeah.
what it is.
It's definitely, and I don't think people understand what it means to carry a company on your shoulders,
Mm,
you know,
mm,
because I think people just think, oh, put anybody there. The reality of it is the demands at the top will always be different than the demands in the mid card or in the
right,
lower level.
right.
If you're in the main event, you have to stay to the end of the show. And not
Mm-hmm,
only do you have to stay to the end of the show, if you're a fan favorite, you've got to sign the autographs, take the pictures, kiss babies, all of those things. You've got to do the media. You've got to be
mm,
willing to do all of those things in addition to actually get in the ring. Um,
mm-hmm,
and and that's a different skill set that I don't know that a lot of people are accustomed to. People have to be able to believe that you
mm-hmm.
are a credible world champion. Um, I'll mention this name, which I think is interesting. I think it's interesting that when CM Punk became the world champion again, it still didn't quite feel right, but he had CM Punk put in work to where now we're like, that's the world champion, and it doesn't feel like the second world title. But Punk had to put in work. So if CM Punk, a veteran, a Hall of Famer, had to put in the work as champion for us to be able to go, oh no, we believe you as the world champion, then how much more does somebody who's never held a world title have to do the same thing? And I think people haven't considered that. And, you know, if I look at and I don't want to cast aspersions or anything like that, but if you look at a Jey Uso, and if you believe everything that you see on Unreal, then the pressure of it got to him. It got to him. So now he's back in a tag team as a tag team champion.
Right. And this is the thing as well. You know, I always said that with a Jey Uso, the popularity is undeniable. Perfect. Yes, you push him. But I think a strong run as the Intercontinental Championship with the Intercontinental Championship would have made a lot more sense. Yeah. And then we see what we can do with him afterwards. They went in straight in, which is, you know, risks have to be taken sometimes. It happens. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the way that they wanted to, or how anyone kind of perceived it would go. So, again, for me, Javon is in a safe place. I'm not begging for him to win the Elimination Chamber match, to go to WrestleMania and whatnot. But him being there says a hell of a lot. It says a hell of a lot, and that's a major win for him. You know, you've got the likes of a Sami Zayn, Jacob Fatu, Gunther, so many people that are not in this match, but he is. Yeah. So it's crazy. It's a win. It's a win in every way. Speaking of WrestleMania, and who might be there, who might not be there, Bianca Belair. The last time we saw her in ring competition was at WrestleMania last year, WrestleMania 41. We found out that she had, you know, broken her finger or a knuckle. It was supposed to be an 8 to 12 weeks healing process, but almost a year later, we're still here. She's not been in action. She had surgery over the weekend, and there's talk that it means now that she probably won't be at Mania. What are your thoughts on the possibilities of Bianca Belair being at Mania, or what the near future holds for
her? It's a little scary if you're a Bianca Belair fan right now, because she has been, you can make the argument, kind of the leading figure in the women's division over these last few years, and her star has continued to rise. I don't think anybody expected that we would have a world where we didn't get Bianca Belair in a wrestling ring wrestling in a calendar year. Like that's crazy to me. The only time we saw her was serving as a referee at Evolution. For a match that didn't need a referee. It was a no holds barred match. So what rules are we enforcing as a referee in that kind of match? We've not heard from her. We've not seen her. And I'll say this. I think sometimes we can underestimate what an injury can do, because I think in our minds, it's a finger. Right? Like, you can work through a finger. I don't know. I thought I heard something about like the knuckle being broken or whatever. It, you know, certainly when I saw pictures, it looked bad. Did it look a year bad? To me, no, but I'm not a doctor. I don't know, you know, how long something like that is supposed to heal. I also don't know if there's something else going on, you know. I know from their show, you know, that they had on Hulu for a minute, you know, she at one point wanted to get pregnant. I don't know if wanting to start a family at this point is what she's interested in. I think one of the challenges, particularly with people in general, is if you want to start a family, waiting later isn't always a good thing. So what's the right time for her? I don't know. I don't know if it means anything that over the last few months we haven't seen her husband on television either. So I don't know. I will say this, and this is the very interesting part about the WWE machine. It continues to move. So the women's division is at a very strong place right now. So I won't say we don't miss Bianca Belair. I will say it doesn't feel like there's a hole in what WWE is doing on the women's side because there are so many women. I mean, I think about the idea. Just think about this. For the Elimination Chamber matches, they're all triple threat matches. There are 6 matches. That means 18 different women across Raw and SmackDown are battling to be in the Elimination Chamber. 18. There was a moment where we could count maybe 8 women in the division, period.
Right.
So the fact that you have 18 and there are still names that have not been mentioned is incredible to the depth of the women's division in WWE. And again, we're not counting, a Jordan Grace who just got a world title shot. We're not counting, several other names who are not even mentioned in the Elimination Chamber conversation. I say all of that to say, with the depth of the roster WWE has, fans of Bianca Belair will miss her presence, but unfortunately, it feels like the product does not.
And you answered the question I was going to ask you as well. Like, does the WWE miss Bianca Belair? Does the women's division need Bianca Belair? And I agree with you as well. Like, it doesn't feel as though she's missing or that there's a hole. And that's not a put down on Bianca at all. It is, as you said, it shows just how much depth and just how much better the women's division is from maybe a year, 2 years ago. Even the likes, talk about 18 women kind of being involved in the qualifying matches, and yet obviously we've not had no Naomi.
Right.
Becky Lynch and AJ Lee are, doing other things. And I don't think I'm guessing we're not going to see like a Nikki Cross, for example. She hasn't actually had a match for God knows how long. So there are still so many women who are capable and very good and would make sense and can hold their own that I'm not going to be in this Elimination Chamber. And Bianca Belair is also on that list. And it sounds crazy, but it is what it is at the moment. I was hoping, I'm sure we were all hoping and still hoping in some way that it was going to be Jade versus Bianca. I've been waiting for Bianca to just come out at some point and be the one to challenge Jade. It's not looking as though that's going to happen. What do you think it's going to look like? Who, in your mind, we know that Jade, we kind of have a very good idea it's going to be Jade Cargill that is going to be the champion that the Elimination Chamber winner faces. Who do you see that being?
That's a great question. I actually thought that they were going to try to save the Jordan Grace Jade Cargill match potentially for WrestleMania. I think there's a case that could be made for that. In terms of who ends up getting this shot potentially at Jade, I mean, it seems clear, for one, that the Royal Rumble winner Liv Morgan will pick Stephanie Vaquer. That seems to make the most sense. Who gets Jade is a very interesting question. I mean, and if you look at the people that are in the chamber right now, you've got Asuka, you've got Alexa Bliss. I think Charlotte Flair is in there.
No, Rhea Ripley is one of them.
Rhea Ripley's in there. And we still have 3 more slots, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So potentially EO is in there. Obviously, she's got a qualifying match next week.
Mm-hmm.
It's wide open. I will say this. I think we have a bit of a challenge in terms of uh, having all of these tag teams involved in this single situation, which could be an interesting statement. So if I'm going through all of that, I think probably the lead name for me right now, if you're talking about the WWE Women's Championship, a main event caliber match, would be Rhea Ripley.
Mm.
The idea of a Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley is very intriguing. It's, again, two powerhouses. Obviously, Jade is very popular. Rhea is arguably the most popular woman on the roster still. And, now I think we're in the space of Rhea looking like the veteran in this space. And does Jade Cargill, survive a Rhea Ripley? This It feels to me now, don't misunderstand what I'm going to say here. This feels to me like the WrestleMania 36 moment where you had the upstart Rhea Ripley challenging Charlotte Flair.
Right.
So now Rhea Ripley has stepped into that role of veteran. Jade Cargill is still viewed as an upstart. I think that's safe and fair to say. That's no knock to Jade Cargill. And it would be a massive proving kind of match for Jade Cargill to see, okay, she proved last year at Mania that she could hang with Naomi. Can she stand in the space and in the world of a Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania? That's a major task. We'll see if she's ready for it. But I think right now that would be the way to go. I think, WrestleMania right now is having a challenger to selling tickets, and you're going to need some star power in there. I don't think Raquel Rodriguez would be the one for that. I love EO, and I think it'd be great to have an EO moment in there. Does she fight for that championship? Does EO and Jade look better than Rhea and Jade? I don't see it being Alexa Bliss. So to me right now, I think Rhea Ripley is probably the leading candidate for that slot against Jade Cargill.
I think at the minute it is very, very wide open. I agree that Rhea Ripley would be the one to make the most sense in terms of star power, but I believe plans can change. Certain things may not have gone the way that they've wanted to, and injuries and blah blah blah. But I still believe that Rhea and Io are going to WrestleMania to defend their tag team championships. So with that said, again, it leaves the door wide open. I mean, it's possible if they want to see if Rhea does double duty and does one night tag team championship, the other night women's championship, possible. But I actually don't think it's going to be her. So I have no idea who it could possibly be.
I have a very interesting thought that just crossed my mind. We know that there is a qualifying match this weekend on SmackDown. I don't remember who's in there. We know there's one next Monday on Raw. That would only be 5. With a
we forgot to mention, because Jeffrey Reiner, thank you, mate, has told us Tiffany Stratton was another one. So I think that's 4.
So we've got 4. Okay, so there's 2 more slots. 2 more. That we did forget Tiffany. That's right. So there's 2 more slots. I wonder. Picture this. This could get very interesting. Picture a world where, last year at the Elimination Chamber, Naomi was supposed to be in that match, and she was, until all of a sudden a returning Jade Cargill shows up, takes out Naomi, and we got a whole thing. Guys, what if we have a world where somehow mysteriously, whoever the sixth person is to qualify, pick one of them, gets mysteriously injured, and taking their place is the EST Bianca Belair. I'm trying to tell you guys something. Don't be fooled by some of the stuff you're seeing and hearing. Don't be fooled. We all got duped this summer by Seth Rollins. We all got duped, right? These reports are supposed to do a thing. I feel like this. The stage is this is the best time to have Jade Cargill versus Bianca Belair for the WWE Women's Championship. If we've got surgery to fix a finger and the finger is fixed, what's stopping her from getting in this ring? And I'm telling you, with all the names that are already in there, and we're going, it's wide open, none of them are going to bring in the ticket sales like the match we would finally get between Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. Guys, I'm telling you, the Elimination Chamber for the last couple of years has been a space of surprises.
For sure.
Think about last year. Jade Cargill shows up out of nowhere. That's how it starts. It ends with John Cena and the heel turn around the world. Heard around the world. Guys, you've heard it here first. Do not be surprised if somehow, some way, somebody gets mysteriously injured and we get the return of the EST in Chicago in less than 2 weeks. And she goes back to back winning the Elimination Chamber.
And this is the thing. This should have been my first question or comment on this whole subject as well of Bianca Belair and WrestleMania. It's not been confirmed that she's not going. No one said that she's not going. No one said it's going. She's had surgery. Yes, surgery takes time. I get it. So that's why people make the assumption that she's not going to WrestleMania.
But it's a finger and not a hernia.
Right. And I know it's a finger and it's taken, 10 months longer than it should have. So we've been told. But there's nothing to say that she's not got. No one's actually confirmed she's not going to WrestleMania. No one has said that. So it's still a possibility, however small the percentage might be. It's still a possibility. Yeah. That happening. And I don't think it's a case of we're being fooled in the way that we were with the whole Seth Rollins and injury, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's a work or whatever else. But at the same time, the surgery's happened. No one said it's going to take 6 months to heal or 3 or 4 months or whatever. It could be a few weeks. It could be.
And do we even know when she had the surgery? Right? Like, I think, and I say that because by the time we get news, the thing has already happened. Like, I got too many cases to look at where by the time we get because when we hear the news, we think it just happened, and that's usually not the case. So let's just say the surgery happened 3 weeks ago. Let's just say. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're acting like the surgery happened yesterday. It didn't happen yesterday, folks. Guys, I'm trying to tell you. We could be looking at a world because it happens like this all the time. And I love it personally. I love it. I mean, even go back a few years ago when Seth Rollins legit got injured and he found a way back just so that he'd be able to be in WrestleMania. Roman made a random comeback, when we thought he was done. Like, so many people are going to work hard to get back for WrestleMania because WrestleMania is the space to be. So I'm telling you, you want to boost the ticket sales for this year's WrestleMania? They already pulled the trigger by telling us CM Punk and Roman Reigns. We haven't seen anybody make a Royal Rumble choice or WrestleMania choice that fast in many years.
A long time.
So,
and here's the thing, we've seen so many people come back earlier than expected. And there's nothing to say, and I'm not saying that this whole finger thing again is not a work and we're not being kind of fooled or whatever else. But at the same time, who's to say that, yes, her finger might be bad and whatnot. But what if they've literally purposely given her time off?
Yes, yes, yes.
Like, why not? Like, why
She's
not?
earned it.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the injury probably messed up a plan and whatever else. But then they thought, you know what? Stay at home, chill. Let's wait till WrestleMania. We're going to give Jake the title, give her a bit of a
Mhm.
run, blah, 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 blah. And then we'll bring you back in for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. It's
Not
not impossible.
impossible at all. And we still
Very
have
interesting.
8 to 9 weeks before Mania.
Exactly. That's a lot of time.
A lot of
That's a
time.
hell of a lot of time.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. That it's
Hmm.
still possible. It's still very much
Hmm.
possible.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting indeed. Let's move on really quickly. Um, Ricochet. We didn't get to talk about this last week. We didn't do the show last week.
Yeah.
Ricochet was in the headlines. Nothing new, I guess. But with this one, it wasn't so much about what he tweeted, but what he said in an interview. He had an interview. I completely forget the space that he was on, but he was basically he talked about his time in WWE, the 5 years that he was on the main roster, very specifically,
Yeah.
and basically saying that it ruined his reputation. And I don't want to misquote him, but it kind of he felt as though it was a waste of 5 years almost, or it had a negative impact on him, on his career, on the perception of Ricochet. What do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your take on what he said about his 5 years in WWE?
I think when people thought about Ricochet coming to WWE, they had something in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what happens to all of us. Whenever somebody shows up on the doors of WWE, we already start fantasy booking. We start imagining all the things that could happen. What people often miss, though, is there are different things that are needed in WWE that are different than other spaces. So I'll say this. Here's why I won't say that it was a bust for him. Because, first of all, in the space of WWE, you learn how to work cameras in a way you don't know in independent wrestling and New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes in understanding that. Secondly, he comes in front of a worldwide audience. Sure, had he shown up to AEW straight from New Japan, there would have been a fan or two certainly very excited about that. But
Mm-hmm.
most of the folks who have come straight from New Japan, that haven't had much going on in the WWE, people really aren't paying attention to. Whether you like it or not, being in WWE gives you a level of visibility that no other company can claim.
Right.
The other piece of it that I think is interesting is he learned how to cut a promo somewhere.
Right. Right.
And AEW, New Japan, those places are not known for cutting riveting promos or teaching
Mm-hmm.
you how to do that. He might not have been given a ton of opportunity to do it in WWE, but he learned it somewhere.
Mm.
And maybe he had been working on it and he had been practicing at home or practicing at the performance center and just didn't get a lot of space to do that on camera. But he learned it somewhere. And he wasn't known for his promos before he came to WWE.
Mm-mm. Mm.
And now he's a solid promo guy after WWE. Where do you think he learned that?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it was a bust. I think, if you're measuring it by did he win a world championship, et cetera, then no. But he's the first speed champion. He's held other opportunities in terms of championships. He's had some great moments,
Yes.
in terms of getting a world title shot in Saudi, having WrestleMania moments, highlight reels, all of the things. That's a statement. So I think it's just based on how you measure it. And I think
Mm.
his time in WWE actually made him a better competitor in AEW. And here's the last piece I'll mention to that. He was known as an aerial guy primarily. But when he went to AEW, all of a sudden his ground game showed up. Again, where did he learn this?
Mm.
WWE is not necessarily an aerial acrobatic place.
Mm.
He had to learn it somewhere. And so I think he learned a lot in WWE that has made him successful in AEW. And that's why I can't say that it was a bust.
I'll answer the question myself. For me, I actually do see. I see exactly what you're saying. Because I think he was being very, very specific about his reputation, and maybe, and also maybe his own expectations as well. So, before any contract or any talk, any negotiation with WWE, NXT, whatever it was, this man was the most popular wrestler outside of WWE by a mile, by a mile.
Yeah.
And so whether it's him or fans that knew him before, from the indies, again, like you said, people that knew him would have had an expectation, fantasy booking, all sorts of things, and probably almost hoping, especially in during that NXT era as well, where you had guys coming from the indies, your Sami Zayn's, Kevin Owens, Adam Cole, everyone else coming in and doing their thing, and becoming as popular as they became, even before going to the main roster as well. There was an expectation. NXT happened. It was very good for him. He got to do all the stuff that Ricochet would be expected to do, and all the rest of it. The main roster, however, is a completely different machine, completely different engine. The outlook, all of those things are completely different. And I think it definitely did affect his reputation in general. So many good points that you can take from it. He won the Intercontinental Championship, US Championship, Speed Championship. You say the moments in at WrestleMania, stuff like that. Everyone, even I'm sure himself, dreams of being in. He met his wife. All of these good things that you can take from it. But in terms of the perspective or the perception that fans have or had of Ricochet, definitely went down. Because very often, loads of people, fans would be talking negatively about Ricochet for the most part. So when it was time for him to leave and go to AEW, the expectation was actually very low in terms of what he was going to do, and he's proven us wrong in the time that he's been in AEW. But I do still think it had a negative impact on his reputation and his own expectation. So I get what he's saying, and he was very specific about the good things as well. He did say that it's more to do with his reputation, and just what I think his own perception of what the WWE was or was probably going to do for him, and stuff like that. So I get what he's saying. There's an argument in it, but yeah, I think it definitely had a negative impact in general, but that's not because of what he can and can't do, but more so the less opportunities that he had. So as you said, he was taught to cut a promo, but when did we ever get to really see that?
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's things like that. So I get it, but unfortunately for him also, the other thing that's messed up his reputation is his conduct on the socials. So,
and I can't blame WWE for that.
Exactly. So, so there are certain things that you can argue maybe his own fault, or we don't know what his attitude was like behind the scenes, or he was saying that he would wake up in the morning and not be happy to go to work. That says a lot.
Well, and I'll say this too. I think we have to understand that not every like as we said at the top of the show, not every environment is for everybody. And I think there's a way that certain companies do things that are appealing to some people and that are not appealing to others. And so, again, if it doesn't fit or work for you, I think that has to be acknowledged. And we see it all the time. And so there are certain people who thrive in certain spaces and certain people who, it's too much for them. And when I say too much, I mean, it just doesn't work with who they are. And so I think for Ricochet, For instance, right? Like, this whole idea, you'll see, you usually don't see very many WWE stars getting in social media spats
Right.
because they do a really solid job of trying to educate folks on, hey, don't get into that, don't do that, be careful how you conduct yourself in those spaces. AEW is not nearly as regimented in that regard. So, you can go off, say whatever you want. Again, that level of structure doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
And so, I think there has to be more of an acknowledgement that, this wasn't necessarily the best fit. The reason why I don't say that it destroyed his reputation is because the way we look at him now is not the way we looked at him 2 years ago. Because he was willing to do the work. And I think with that, what you said in terms of his reputation, how much of that was him versus the organization he was in? Because in terms of reputation, what most fans talk about is how he keeps going off on socials, not his wrestling ability.
Right.
People will say perhaps he didn't get the opportunities to shine in certain spaces, but nobody as thought of less of him as a wrestler. It's what he did on the socials that made people go, okay.
Very true. Very, very true. As you said, the WWE is a very different machine, different engine. You have to conduct yourself in a certain way. You taught things a certain way. I think it's interesting to think of the possibility of what if Ricochet went from the Indies to AEW first.
Right.
I think that by now he probably would have had, he would have been a world champion, TNT champion at the very least by now if he went to AEW and before or not gone to WWE. The reason why that's not happened yet, and it's not because he only signed with AEW just the other day, but it's more to do with now AEW's filled with so many stars. They've got, they've built certain stars, they've got reputations, all the rest of it. A Ricochet is not going to walk in there and just become the biggest star in the room. So yeah, I think AEW fits him better in terms of just what they're made, what they're about, it's all about the in-ring and all that kind of thing. But as you said, WWE is not for everyone.
Right.
Just because he was the biggest star in the Indies doesn't mean he's going to come in as the biggest star in the WWE, and that's not based on, reputation and what the higher ups think. It's more so it can be to do with someone's character, someone's demeanor, someone's style, so many different things, and it just didn't work out for him in the way that he wanted it to, and that's fair. Right. That's fine. He has an expectation, and he can have that. He can have that mindset. It's absolutely fine. But sure. I'm just glad that he is in a space where he has said it so many times, that he's now back in love with wrestling again.
Yeah.
And that's
a good thing.
A very good thing. And I think we see it. We definitely see it from him as well. So he is now in a better place, which is brilliant. I want to talk about this guy. We mentioned him, I think, last time as well. Trey Miguel. We know that the little trajectory that he's gone on over the last couple of months, with leaving TNA, signing with AEW, being released from his contract literally 24 hours later, talking about giving up wrestling altogether, and then he makes a surprise appearance back in TNA. He's now the new TNA International Champion. Also, as well, in a very recent interview, he talked about the impact that Alex Shelley, a conversation with Alex Shelley, kind of changed his whole perspective in that space of time where he was kind of, unsure whether he's going to wrestle again and all these kinds of things, and he's now where he's at. My question to you, Gerard, is now that he's back in TNA, obviously very comfortable. Obviously has a group of people in the company that see a lot in him. But my question is, do you feel as though that's now his ceiling? Is there a space where Trey Miguel can go to the a bigger company, and or anything like that?
I think it depends on how he handles this run.
Mm,
I think if he's able to prove that he's more than, say, an X division wrestler, that he can carry this in a space that would make him more marketable, then for sure. I think this is one of the challenges of having eerie similarities to someone else. So there was a moment where they would refer to Trey Miguel as kind of Rick O'Shea, right? Because of
hmm
how he
hmm
looks, how he wrestles.
hmm
And one thing a space like WWE does not want anymore is another version or an alternative to whatever the thing is. So that means for him to be able to gather the attention or garner the attention of a space like that, he's going to have to make this run so undeniable that they go, oh no, we need to have him over here, and
mm
make distance between how he presents himself with how Ricochet once presented himself. I
mm
think that's the challenge that he has. So he's going to have to really make this run a special run so that people really look at Trey Miguel as his own man. Because if you think about it, he's been recognized as part of the Rascals the entire time.
hmm
So, getting an X Division run is cool, but to be viewed as a must-have talent, because if we think about it, he even, the AEW signing was part of the Rascals, you
hmm
know.
hmm
So I think for him, if he is to go somewhere else, he has to make this run significant. I also feel like, for him, he has to be. I'm glad that got the international championship because it's something
hmm
other than the X Division title.
Right.
He's going to have to be able to show that he can be viewed as not just an international champion, but as potentially a world championship caliber wrestler.
hmm
So he's going to have to make have some great matches and really make things stand out. There's the possibility, you look at someone like a Moose who wants to be a TNA lifer,
hmm
that might be where he wants to land. He might want to just stay in TNA, if for no other reason then they've accepted him for who he is.
Right. Right.
That he doesn't have to go through potentially rehashing whatever caused him not to be over in AEW in a
hmm
space like WWE. So I think for him, he just has to have a great run with this championship. And if he makes it his own and makes the championship really stand out to mean something, it could mean more for him.
So do you think then that TNA not necessarily owes it to him, but TNA would have to kind of push him towards being that world championship caliber if there was any chance of him kind of moving to a bigger company or getting that opportunity that he wants?
Yeah, I think about someone like a Joe Hendry,
hmm
who really got his thing moving in TNA as the digital media champion. He
True.
took a
True.
title that was brand new, that
Mm,
really didn't mean a whole lot, and gave it some meaning. And
hmm
that propelled him. That plus, obviously, he was very, very popular, a great song. Like he had the whole package, led him
Right.
to an eventual world championship run, which led him to WrestleMania and led him to the
Mm-hmm.
NXT championship. So I
hmm
think that's the kind of thing that Trey Miguel's going to need to have. Not that he has to have a song or whatever, but he needs to have a thing
hmm
that allows him to be seen as a main event caliber star, because WWE or any other company is only going to look at you if you're making that kind of an impact. That's why you look at a Moose, for instance, why he's had so many crossover opportunities in NXT.
Yeah.
Because he's a world champion and he's got the look, he's got the thing.
hmm
Will Trey Miguel be able to do that? Still remains to be seen.
mm 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 mm. Very true. Very true. Another thing that happened in AEW. is the return of Private Party. They had been missing for just over a year. The last match before they returned was just over a year ago. During the summer of last year, there was talk of WWE being interested in signing them. Obviously, they were still on the contract at AEW, and we saw it so many times. Very specifically with Penta and with Phoenix, people having to run out their contracts, and that's what we thought was happening. And they would eventually make a move to WWE/NXT. They made a return as the surprise team in a triple threat tag team match. What are your thoughts on this whole year where they've not been on TV? Nobody was injured. Mark Quinn was injured for a while, about two or 3 years ago. What are your thoughts on this type of situation? What do you think has happened in the locker rooms, in the boardrooms, or whatever else, for them to be away for so long and then come back? And what does this comeback look like for Private Party?
In terms of what may have been going on behind the scenes, I think it becomes a question of, okay, how can we best use these guys? Again, for a team who came in very highly touted, and I think it's very easy to forget that this team beat the Young Bucks in the first round of the inaugural AEW Tag Team Championship tournament. That was arguably their greatest moment. There was a point where they won the tag team titles. When they won it, it felt like it was too late. And I don't want to say this because, we know what we do here on this show, but we didn't miss Private Party. Didn't miss them at all. As a matter of fact, we ended up with several teams just like them. Whether it was the Top Flight, Crew, they just signed the Rascals. Where's the space for Private Party in here? Private Party, this is kind of where you need an AEW Dark at this point. Because there would need to be a space to showcase them. They don't belong. I mean, like, we had makeshift teams being more interesting than that. Brody King and his partner,
Bandito.
who just, Bandito, Bandito was a whole world champion, right? And we found that more interesting than Private Party. We didn't miss Private Party. So I want everybody to be gainfully employed. I absolutely do. They're going to really have to do something, because now with the Young Bucks back being the Young Bucks,
right?
And you got FTR, and you've got all of these other teams that are really doing something. You got the Death Riders and the Don Callis family and all these spaces. I don't even see where they fit in here. I don't.
And that's also my fear. It's kind of, they've come back, but I'm like, it doesn't give me hope that it's going to mean something more than they've done before. And that's sad to say. And I think there's still talk of they might still be writing out their contracts, and they'll probably be done when the contract's over. And I don't know how long that's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be sometime this year. But yeah, I'm just like you said, we've got, they were in the match with the Rascals.
Exactly.
in the time that we expected or wanted Private Party to become tag team champions, the Acclaimed were the Acclaimed for however long as well. They were the team. Like you said, there's all these other teams. FTR are obviously still there. The Young Bucks are back to being in that face space now. We've seen the likes of Crew, who I feel have not been given enough. Top Flight again, not been given enough. There's so many other teams, like the makeshift teams, all the rest of it. And I'm just like, okay, so what are we gonna do with Private Party to make this feel different? But at the same time, the question is, are we supposed to expect more?
That's a great question.
You know what I mean?
Facts.
Are we supposed to expect more? Because yes, they did this whole thing of them being this new, this not new, but this mystery team to make it feel like it was a big return. But then for what?
Yeah, that's the problem with a mystery. The mystery is we have to be looking for you.
Mm,
And if we're not looking for you, it's not a mystery.
very true. Very true. Because everyone, when this whole mystery team, everyone was saying Edge and Christian. Everyone was saying Edge and Christian, Edge and Christian, Edge and Christian. Private Party came out.
Right.
The pop wasn't probably what you would want it to be.
Mm-mm.
And again, they are fan favorites, and I'm sure they will always be fan favorites, and people will admire them and like them. But in terms of the way that was set up, you kind of would have wanted it to be a bigger thing, and it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And they weren't the victors in the match. Wow. So it's like we're just here.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit worrying. It is very worrying. Yeah, I'm not sure where it goes from here. What they do, what they're expected to do, what they're supposed to do. I do want to see them just move away from AEW. Where they go specifically, I don't know. But I think just some type of change might be enough to reset
Yeah.
the team. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I'm now starting to think about where the Street Profits have disappeared to, and blah, 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 blah. Let's not go down that rabbit hole right now. I don't have enough information. Anyway. The final thing I want to hit on is our Nigerian friend Obafemi.
Mm-hmm.
We're still on this bidding war. We've been seeing before he was in the Royal Rumble, we saw all the vignettes. He made his way to the Royal Rumble. He did what he did at the Royal Rumble. He then showed up on Raw.
Keep going.
Yeah. And then showed up on SmackDown. And then he showed up on Raw again. And I'm sure he's probably going to show up on SmackDown again on Friday. What are we doing? What are we doing over for me? It's a tough one. He's having interactions with Kit Wilson, Toxic Man poems, and all the rest of it. I think we need to move him away from the backstage stuff. The squashing tag teams, the squashing of Kit Wilson in the ring, absolutely fine. No problem whatsoever. But I'm scared that we're going to start seeing too much of Obafemi just in the backstage areas. We've been talking about it on this show for the last 3 or 4 weeks, maybe longer now. To him feeling as though he is going to be a bigger star than a Brock Lesnar. The way he's come in with more of a reputation than Brock Lesnar did. Brock Lesnar kind of came out of nowhere to most of us. Whereas Obafemi has come in with this major reputation, massive expectation. But within the space of a week or two, it feels as though he is, I don't know, it's like the mystery is been depleted very quickly. And I'm not sure what that is. Maybe I'm being way too pessimistic as well. It's only been a week. He's going to make some kind of declaration as to who he's signing with, whether it be Raw, SmackDown. Let me know where you think he should go. It's Raw, is it SmackDown? Are we doing too much backstage? What are we doing with Obafemi?
Here's the tough part about this. Obviously, he belongs on one of these spaces, which is the best space, I'm not sure. But I do think taking a monster and trying to humanize him is not the best move. This is a man who we've gotten vignettes from. Quite frankly, even in NXT, we never got some emotional whatever. You know, he was wildly confident. He came out and said, "Hey, listen, I'm the ruler. I dominate. I crush. That's what I do. You can't measure up." And then he backed it up in the ring. That's all he needs to tell us. To sit in the back and have him show up on SmackDown while Kit Wilson talks about toxic masculinity, and he's writing poems, and it was a funny little bit with R-Truth, because it's R-Truth, and R-Truth's a rapper, and like, you know, R-Truth can make people laugh randomly, like that's fine. But the ruler, the guy who, you know, came in at number 1 at the Rumble, tossed a bunch of people out, and could only be eliminated by Brock Lesnar. Let's look at it this way. We don't have Brock Lesnar in the back responding to poems. You would never do it. The most we ever got out of him was Cowboy Brock. When he had on the you know, and he had the moment where he had the, you know, the boom box, and he was trying to, but that was a brief moment that was in the ring opposite a main event guy. You don't do that with Obafemi. You don't need to. So let me get this straight. 2 weeks ago, Obafemi can show up and destroy the War Raiders. And now he's in the back trading poetry barbs with Kit Wilson? They need to fix that quickly. Don't you? There's not a reason for Obafemi to be in a backstage scenario like that. If he's backstage, you have him back there to talk about the big WrestleMania match or whatever. But you do not have him in that. No. You don't even need that to set that match up. Kit Wilson could do stuff all by himself to set it up. But you don't need that. So on that alone, he should go to Monday Night Raw. Don't put me like that on that alone. Put that man on Monday Night Raw, put him on Netflix, and let him go crazy. But do not have that man in a backstage segment. Shame on the general manager who was there present, who should have said, "No, you're Obafemi." Like, because if that's a picture of what's going to happen on SmackDown, no, sir. Not my ruler.
And this is my thing as well. It's like this whole bidding war thing. Why are we even doing that with Obafemi?
Right.
It would have made sense with a Trick Williams. You could have run that with a Trick Williams very easily. This man, you know, brash and kind of, you know, playing the two general managers off each other and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, trying to negotiate his best and how much money he's going to get here and all that. It could have worked with a Trick Williams. With Obafemi, let's not. It doesn't work for me. It kind of didn't work out for Jade Cargill in the early run. I don't think it's on the same wavelength, but at the same time, it's just this whole bidding war going back and forth, and us not knowing where Obafemi is going to be, and blah blah blah. Just they should have, and this is why even when I started seeing the vignettes on both shows, I'm like, why are we putting it on both shows? Just tell us, just get him to make an introduction, makes his debut, tosses people out, squashes War Raiders, squashes whoever else on the same show the next week. Let's go from there. Obafemi demands, you know, some kind of a WrestleMania match or a championship match. You don't necessarily have to give him a championship match, but give him a credible opponent. Even with Rusev, they had a little bit of a thing. Even that would have been like, it's two big guys. Let's go with that. As his first feud, no problem. Kit Wilson, Yeah, you
Oh,
come out
he's
and
already destroyed.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Come out and destroy him, no problem. Don't then have a chat with him the next week.
Right.
No,
Like he
no.
should. Kit Wilson shouldn't have even been on TV the next week. He
Basically,
should have shown up a
literally.
week after, 2 weeks later,
Yep.
perhaps nursing his wounds,
Yep.
just trying to recover from what happened to him. You don't have that man show up a week later talking about, I'm writing a poem because of this toxic max. Yeah,
Mm.
no. No.
Scary. Scary. And I did say, maybe I'm being a bit too pessimistic because it's only been 1 week since he's kind of come in and dominated and we're getting excited.
Mm-hmm.
And this happens in, the week later. And it can easily change, but at the same time, I'm still just why did we even go there in the first place?
Yeah, it wasn't necessary. They need to just make a very quick pivot. I'm glad they're having a match this week. Let that be the last time that we see him in the back with something that does not match up to the ruler. Absolutely not.
Mm.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
backstage. He's back. I didn't mind the Rusev thing. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, fine.
Put him in those kinds of spaces. And, if he's got to work his way up to a Brock or whatever, fine. But not by way of Kit Wilson.
Like I said, the interaction the week before when he squashed him, no problem. That don't need to be again, not the following week. Right. It just didn't make sense. I'm not too worried about what that means for Overfamily's career, but at the same time, it's just like, why did we do that? But to get down to it, we've asked this question before when we kind of started seeing the vignettes and after he made his debut in the Rumble. But do you still believe as though Raw is the best place for him to be in terms of the both shows?
I do. I do, because right now on SmackDown, the rise of Trick Williams is crazy.
It's insane.
It's
insane.
I mean, and there's probably a conversation that needs to be had to say, did we expect Trick Williams to be like this soon on the main roster? That's a whole conversation. But relative to Obafemi, man, put him on Raw. I think, again, you don't have anything like Obafemi on Monday Night Raw. And it's enough of a contrast, and it's enough of a challenge. I mean, think about this, and it's wild that in this version and iteration of WWE, that being 6'4", 250 almost makes you a monster. But that is certainly the case right now in terms of how Trick Williams towers over people. You need that kind of a presence on Monday Night Raw from an Obafemi. Oba going after anybody's title is going to be a problem. Oba going after anyone. I mean, and then again, you've got a Bronson Reed there who is a big, thick guy, but he's not as tall as Obafemi. So you've got that. Plus, there's talk that Royce Keys was on a dark match on SmackDown this weekend. So if SmackDown is going to be the place for Royce Keys, we already saw what happens when you put those two face to face. So put Obafemi on Monday Night Raw, because I think they're going to do right by him. What happened on SmackDown, it just doesn't make sense, given you already have the wildly charismatic, as I mentioned, Trick, potentially Royce coming. Put him on Raw.
For sure. And the other thing about with Raw as well is there's a space open now in terms of a new start, because Bron Breakker's out for a long time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you can kind of, it kind of makes it a little bit easier as well now to throw an Obafemi and be that guy to kind of put the fear into the other stars and stuff like that. Speaking of Trick, I was on Monday Night Live with Mex and the Wrestling's guys, and both names were mentioned. And I said that for me, and we didn't think this about a month or 2 months ago. But for me, with the way it's gone for Trick, I see him being a world champion before Obafemi, or being pushed to that space before an Obafemi. He just feels more ready, or is more well-rounded in general as a star. He's got more to him. So Obafemi, what he has is perfected, and he's great. But Trick ticks more boxes, more WWE boxes. Let's put it that way. And yeah, so what they're doing with Trick is, and what he's doing himself, is just brilliant. It's so good. It's so good. He doesn't need to be pushed to a world championship within the year or whatever, but the space he's in is just so, it's too good. It's almost too good. It's perfect for him. So yeah, Obafemi on SmackDown wouldn't make sense. It would have to be on Raw. But yeah, that whole Kit Wilson SmackDown, yeah, that's not it.
It's interesting. I think they present two very different things.
Of course.
And they're so different that, as I'm thinking about it, like if Oba becomes a world champion, it's going to be for a completely different reason than Trick. Oba as the world champion is the mountain that's hard to climb. Trick as the world champion is the guy you're going to absolutely send to the red carpets. You're going to send him to the Super Bowl, to the NBA championship. Like that's the thing. I mean, think about it. Now this is funny. We talked earlier about someone saying someone not being urban enough. He took the phrase lemon pepper steppers and has everybody saying it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's mind blowing. And I don't even want to make this comparison, but when I watched him the other night and watched how he was rattling stuff off about Sami Zayn and rattling stuff, I was like, guys, this is premium level Rock right now. This is without trying to be like Rock.
Yeah.
This is I have not seen this level of captivation since, I'm talking 98, 99 Rock.
Yep.
Like this is something different, man. I'll say it. And this is like black. This is beautifully black. I don't have any other way to describe it. Rock was charismatic, for sure. And I think you're only ever going to get one Rock. However, Trick Williams is on the trajectory right now where it's going to be Rock and Trick. Like that's the trajectory right now. And nobody saw this coming. If they tell you they saw it coming, they're lying. Okay? We sat here a year ago and we were just like, man, where can you take Trick? And everybody talked about his wrestling ability, his in-ring ability. He was charismatic, but what we're seeing right now is 99 level Rock. The difference, like I said, is it is black. It is unapologetically black. Rock wasn't doing this kind of stuff. Rock, now he had, the cool thing, jabroni, and that wasn't black. That was wrestling.
Yeah.
The wrestling term they used in the back that he brought out. Lemon pepper steppers is straight Atlanta. All right? Like it is a thing, and and the way he talks, the things he says, man. And let me say this: did we ever think there was a world where Trick Williams was more charismatic than Carmelo Hayes? I never saw that coming.
Let's talk about it.
Exactly. So yeah, man, Trick Williams, you hear me good. 99 level Rock, and if he continues on this trajectory, we got about a year before him and The Rock are right here. It's special. It's special. It's special. And listen, and this is not me being a prisoner of the moment. This is not. I'm telling you guys, I want to see Trick Williams come on my television. And here's the thing. At first, we were like, it's the theme song. Then we're like, it's Booker T. No, man, it's all of that. And to hear them talk about how perfect that, that leg whip, that leg lariat was that he did over the weekend. To hear them say you could do it 100 times and it doesn't look that good, and he nails it the first time. Guys, Trick Williams, at this rate, is a WrestleMania main eventer next year.
You know what's crazy as well? So the whole idea, I've just had it in my head, the whole idea of him and The Rock having some kind of, mic off in the ring for one would be mad. You know what else is crazy? Watching Raw last night. How many times did you hear "whoop that trick"? The chants from the crowd. At least three separate times during the show.
Here's the interesting thing about that some outside of that area may not know. The whole phrase "whoop that trick" is actually coming out of Memphis. And that's where they were last night. And so, "whoop that trick" is a whole thing. And the fact, again, that it ends up getting associated with Trick Williams, it's brilliant. But again, unapologetically black.
Right.
That is a very that is hip hop, late 90s, early 2000s, and again, something that Rock would have never tried to do in his Attitude Era run or even now. So the fact that the whole world is chanting "whoop that trick," a very black phrase, and then you get guys, hear me. Trick Williams.
And the other thing is he's even got babies singing "whoop that trick."
Yes.
And that's gone viral on my page. Like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
insane. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Oh man. This our time is up. Our time is up. Yeah. Oh man. Gerard, just remind the people where they can find you, anything that you've got coming up, any other shows, anything else that you've got going on, let the people know.
For sure. You can find me at Bonnerfied across all of the social spaces. Some really cool things are in the works, so be on the lookout for that. Of course, I've got a podcast called Bonnerfied Conversations, which really doesn't deal with wrestling. So if you'd like to hear more of just kind of my thoughts and musings and the like, you can check that out. New episode just dropped today. I think there's a lot of cool life things in there that you guys will appreciate. And more great wrestling things are on the way as well. So check it all out at Bonnerfied.
Amazing. Of course, guys.
I forgot one thing. I'm sorry. Ashe Wrestling, March 22nd. We are back, and I'm very, very excited about what that looks like. Tickets, I believe, are on sale now. So you can check that out. Some really cool things coming with Ashe Wrestling. Very excited for the first big card of 2026 for us. So again, that's March 22nd. Be on the lookout for that.
Have there been any announcements of matches? People going to be showing up? Anything like that yet?
No announcement of matches yet, but I'm sure that's coming very, very soon. And with that, shout out to my man Chris Lee, who is the lead commentator there, who just won an Emmy Award for the documentary where Giants Walked, I believe is the name of it, talking about wrestling in North Carolina, certainly during the 80s and that type of thing. Just so proud of Chris Lee and all that's happening with our team at Ashe.
Amazing. Guys, you can find us here every Tuesday. Almost every Tuesday. We're trying to make it every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. Let's just say it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just say every Tuesday. Of course, the newer time of 3:30 UK time. I believe that's about 11:30 US time. I usually don't work it out, but I think I tried it this time. Of course, you can also follow me and everything that we are doing here on Instagram, on Black Wrestling Alliance. Stay tuned. More stuff coming very soon. And guys, we will see you again next time. Thank you for joining us. Peace.